The room was 12 feet by 12 feet, no windows, one metal table. Nicolás Maduro sat handcuffed to a chair he never imagined he'd occupy. And across from him, leaning back with that signature smirk, was Donald Trump. "So Nicholas," Trump said, "let's talk about what you did to your people." 3 days earlier, Maduro's convoy had been intercepted 40 miles from the Colombian border. Not by the Venezuelan military, not by Colombian forces, by a joint CIA-DIA task force that had been tracking him for 18 months. The operation was codenamed Final Verdict. When the black SUVs surrounded his armored Mercedes, Maduro knew it was over. His security detail surrendered without firing a shot. Someone had betrayed him, someone close. They'd flown him to a classified location. No lawyer, no diplomatic protection, no phone call to Moscow or Havana. Just a concrete cell, a metal bed, and 72 hours of silence. Until the door opened, and Donald Trump walked in. That's when everything changed. Maduro had prepared for this moment in 1,000 different scenarios. Speeches, defenses, revolutionary rhetoric, but nothing prepared him for Trump's first words. "You look terrible, Nicholas." Really terrible. Have they been feeding you? It wasn't the question Maduro expected. Trump pulled out a chair, sat down heavily, and placed a McDonald's bag on the table. "Big Mac, fries. I know you like American food. I've seen the reports." Trump pushed the bag toward him. "Eat, we're going to be here a while." Maduro stared at the bag. His stomach twisted with hunger and humiliation. "I'm not hungry," he said in accented English. Trump shrugged. "Suit yourself. More for me." He pulled out a Big Mac and took a massive bite. "See, Nicholas, here's the thing. You and we're not so different. But you haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." Maduro's eyes narrowed. "We are nothing alike." "No?" Trump wiped his mouth with a napkin. "We both ran countries. We both dealt with fake news. We both had enemies who wanted us gone. The difference? I left with dignity. He gestured around the room. "You left in handcuffs. This is illegal," Maduro said through clenched teeth. "International law." "International law?" Trump laughed. It was a cold, sharp laugh. "Nicholas, you tortured your own people. You stole elections. You crashed an entire economy. And you want to talk to me about international law?" Trump leaned forward, his expression suddenly serious. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to answer my questions. All of them, because if you don't..." He paused, letting the silence build. "Well, let's just say there are a lot of people who want to have a conversation with you. And I'm the nice one." "Wait a minute, don't miss this detail." A door at the back of the room opened. A man in a dark suit entered carrying a folder. He didn't introduce himself. He placed the folder in front of Trump and left without a word. Trump opened it. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. "Let's start with 2017, Trump said, sliding the first photo across the table. "The protests. You remember those, right? Of course you do. You ordered your military to fire on them." The photo showed a young man, maybe 19 years old, lying in a pool of blood on a Caracas street. "His name was Neomar Lander," Trump said quietly. "He was shot in the head by your National Guard. He was unarmed. He was protesting because his family hadn't eaten in 3 days." Maduro stared at the photo but said nothing. "Nothing to say?" Trump slid another photo. "This is Juan Pernalit, 20 years old. Your forces fired a tear gas canister directly at his chest. Killed him instantly." Another photo. Armando Cañizales, 17 years old. Another. Paula Ramirez, 23 years old. 5 months pregnant. The photos kept coming. Faces, names, stories. "Now what you're seeing is nothing." Maduro's hands trembled. Those were riots. We had to maintain order." "Order?" Trump's voice rose. "You call starving your people order? You call stealing billions while children died of malnutrition order?" Trump stood up, pacing now. "I've read the reports, Nicholas. All of them. The CIA reports. The Treasury Department investigations. The testimonies from your own officials who defected." He stopped, turning to face Maduro directly. "You know what I found? You're not a revolutionary. You're not even a dictator. You're just a thief. A common thief who wrapped himself in a flag." Maduro's face flushed red. "You know nothing about Venezuela? Nothing about our struggle. We were fighting American imperialism." "American imperialism?" Trump's laugh was bitter. "Is that what you call it when we try to stop you from murdering your own citizens? When we impose sanctions because you're running drugs through your country?" Trump pulled out another document. "Cartel de los Soles. The Sun Cartel. Your own military officials trafficking cocaine through Venezuela. And you," he pointed at Maduro, "you took a cut. Every shipment, Every kilogram. You got paid. Lies. Maduro shouted. American propaganda. You won't believe this, but. Trump slammed his hand on the table. The sound echoed through the room. Don't lie to me, Nicholas. I have the bank records. Switzerland, Panama, Dubai, 47 different accounts, $380 million. While your people were eating out of garbage cans, you were buying penthouses in Dubai. Maduro's face went pale. Yeah, we know about those, Trump said quietly. We know about everything. He sat back down, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. So here's how this works. You tell me the truth, all of it, and maybe, just maybe, you get to live out your days in a regular prison instead of a black site where no one will ever find you. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Maduro's voice came out hoarse. What do you want to know? Trump smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Everything. Let's start with April 30th, 2019. The day you almost ran. Maduro shifted in his chair. April 30th, 2019. The day Juan Guaido had tried to spark a military uprising. The day Maduro came closest to losing everything. I was never going to run, Maduro said. That's not what your defense minister told us, Trump replied casually. He pulled out a transcript. Vladimir Padrino. He's been very talkative since we picked him up yesterday. Maduro's eyes widened. You have Padrino? Him and 6 others from your inner circle. Trump tapped the transcript. He says you had 3 planes ready at Maiquetía Airport. 1 to Havana, 1 to Moscow, 1 to Tehran. You were ready to bolt. Padrino is lying, Maduro said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is he? Trump leaned forward. Because we also have the flight manifests. We have the security footage. We have you, Nicholas, standing on that tarmac with a bag in your hand. But the really shocking thing is, Trump pulled out a photo. It showed Maduro at the airport, exactly as described. The timestamp, April 30th, 2019, 11:47 a.m. You were going to run, Trump said softly. But then something happened. Someone called you. Who was it? Maduro closed his eyes. He could still hear that voice on the phone. Russian accent, cold, direct. If you run now, the voice had said, you'll never be able to come back. But if you stay and fight, we'll support you. We'll make sure you survive. It had been a lie. Moscow had abandoned him the moment it became inconvenient. It was Lavrov, Maduro whispered. Sergei Lavrov called me. He told me to stay. Trump nodded slowly. And you believed him. I had no choice. You always have a choice, Nicholas. Trump's voice was hard now. You chose to stay. You chose to keep killing your people. You chose to keep stealing. Every single day, you made that choice. Don't miss this detail. Trump pulled out another document. Let's talk about the 2018 election. You know, the one where you won, with 68% of the vote? Maduro said nothing. We have testimony from 15 different election officials, Trump continued. They all say the same thing. The ballots were pre-marked. The machines were rigged. The count was fake. Every election has irregularities, Maduro said weakly. Irregularities? Trump's voice dripped with contempt. Nicholas, you didn't win an election. You staged a show, a performance, and then you had the nerve to claim it was democratic. Trump stood up again, pacing. You know what the real tragedy is? Venezuela could have been great. You had oil. You had resources. You had a population that believed in Chávez's vision. He turned back to Maduro. And you destroyed it all. In less than a decade, you took one of the richest countries in South America and turned it into a nightmare. Maduro's voice rose, defensive now. The sanctions. Your sanctions destroyed our economy. Trump stopped pacing. My sanctions? He laughed. Nicholas, your economy was collapsing long before I imposed sanctions. Inflation was at 1,000% in 2017. Your oil production had dropped by 50%. Your people were already fleeing the country. He sat back down. The sanctions didn't destroy Venezuela. You did. You don't understand, Maduro said desperately. The pressure we were under. The conspiracies. The attempts on my life. Oh, the drone assassination attempt? Trump interrupted. August 2018. I read that report too. You know what the CIA concluded? It was staged. You staged your own assassination attempt to justify a crackdown on dissidents. That's not true, isn't it? Trump pulled out yet another document. We intercepted communications between your intelligence services. They planned the whole thing. The drones, the explosion, the timing, all of it. Maduro's face crumbled. He'd kept that secret for years. That's when everything changed. Trump's expression softened slightly. Look, Nicholas, I'm not saying you didn't face real threats. You did. But you responded by becoming the thing you claimed to fight against. You became the oppressor. He leaned back in his chair. You know what the difference is between me and you? When people criticized me, I fought back with words. With tweets. With rallies. You fought back with bullets. Your country is different, Maduro said bitterly. You have institutions. You have rule of law. We had chaos. We had enemies everywhere. So you became a killer to stop the chaos? Trump shook his head. That's not leadership, Nicholas. That's cowardice. The words hit like a physical blow. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. The door opened again. This time, a woman entered. She was in her 50s, wearing a simple dress, her face lined with years of pain. Trump stood. Nicolás Maduro, I want you to meet someone. This is Maria Herrera. Her son was Armando Cañizales, the 17-year-old your forces killed in 2017. Maduro's blood turned to ice. Maria walked slowly to the table. She didn't sit. She stood there, looking down at Maduro with eyes that held a universe of grief. You killed my son, she said in Spanish. Her voice was steady but filled with pain. He was just a boy. He wasn't a terrorist. He wasn't a criminal. He was hungry, and he wanted to protest. That's all. Maduro couldn't meet her eyes. Look at me, Maria said firmly. You owe me that much. Slowly, Maduro raised his head. Why? Maria asked. Why did you kill my boy? What did he do to deserve that? The silence stretched. Maduro's mouth opened but no words came out. Finally, Maria spoke again. I came here because Mr. Trump said you might apologize. That if you saw the face of one mother whose child you murdered, you might feel something. Anything. She waited. Maduro's voice came out as a whisper. I'm sorry. Sorry? Maria's laugh was hollow. Sorry doesn't bring back my son. Sorry doesn't undo the 5 years I've cried myself to sleep. Sorry doesn't. Her voice broke. She turned away, unable to continue. Trump put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Thank you, Mrs. Herrera. That was very brave. She nodded, wiping her eyes, and left the room. Now what you're seeing is nothing. The door closed. Trump sat back down, his expression unreadable. There are 847 more families like hers, he said quietly. 847 documented deaths during your protests and crackdowns. And those are just the ones we know about. Maduro stared at the table. For the first time since the interrogation began, tears formed in his eyes. I never wanted. His voice cracked. I never wanted it to go this far. But it did, Trump said. And now you have to answer for it. Trump pulled out one final document. This is a proposed plea agreement. You confess to everything. You give us names of everyone in your organization who was involved in drug trafficking, money laundering, and human rights violations. You testify against them. He slid it across the table. In exchange, you get life in prison instead of the death penalty. You get to see your family once a month. You get to live. Maduro looked at the document through blurred vision. What happens if I don't sign? Trump's expression hardened. Then I walk out that door, and the next person who comes in won't be as nice as me. The DEA wants you for drug trafficking. That's a death penalty case. The State Department wants you for crimes against humanity. Also death penalty. The families of the people you killed want their own justice. He stood up. This is the only deal you're getting, Nicholas. Sign it, or spend the rest of your very short life in legal hell. Trump walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Your wife, Cilia? She's in the next room making her own deal. She's smart. She's already talking. Wait a minute, don't miss this detail. Maduro's head snapped up. Cilia is here? 20 feet away, Trump said casually. Been here for 2 days. She's been very cooperative. Gave us the location of your offshore accounts. The names of your money launderers. The details of your drug connections. You're lying. Trump pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, then turned it toward Maduro. A video played. Cilia, sitting in a similar room, talking to agents, pointing to documents, nodding as she spoke. No, Maduro whispered. She's saving herself, Nicholas. Because she's smarter than you. She knows when the game is over. Trump pocketed his phone. The question is, are you smart enough to do the same? Maduro felt the walls closing in. Everything he'd built, everyone he'd trusted, it was all collapsing. I need time to think, he said desperately. You have 5 minutes. Trump checked his watch. I'm going to get a coffee. When I come back, either that document is signed, or I'm walking out and never coming back. Trump opened the door. The sound of his footsteps echoed down the hallway. Maduro was alone. He looked at the plea agreement. Pages and pages of confessions. Names, dates, crimes. It was his entire legacy reduced to a legal document. But the really shocking thing is, his hand moved toward the pen Trump had left on the table. His fingers trembled as they wrapped around it. All those years, all those speeches about revolution and resistance, all those promises about never surrendering to American imperialism. And now here he was, about to sign his name on an American document, in an American facility, confessing to American authorities. Chavez would have died first. But Chavez was dead, and Maduro was very much alive. And he wanted to stay that way. The door opened. Trump walked back in with a Starbucks cup. "Well," he said, "what's it going to be?" Maduro looked at him, then at the document, then at his own hands, still handcuffed. "I want 3 things," Maduro said slowly. Trump raised an eyebrow. "You're not really in a position to negotiate. I want to see Cilia. Before I sign, I need to know she's really okay." Trump considered this. "Fine. What else?" "I want protection. From the cartels, from Colombian paramilitaries, from everyone who wants me dead. Already included in the deal." "Next?" Maduro took a deep breath. I want a window. In my cell. I want to see the sky." Trump stared at him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. "A window. Yeah, I can do that. Even monsters deserve to see the sun." He pulled out a phone, made a quick call. "Bring in the wife. 5-minute meeting. You won't believe this, but..." 3 minutes later, Cilia was brought into the room. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. When she saw Maduro, she gasped. "Nicolás." They weren't allowed to touch. Guards stood between them. "Are you okay?" Maduro asked in Spanish. "I'm alive," she replied. "That's more than we deserve." "Did you really tell them everything?" Cilia looked him in the eyes. "Yes, I did. Because it's over, Nicolás. We lost, and I don't want to die for a lost cause." Maduro felt something inside him break. The last piece of his revolution crumbling to dust. "I'm going to sign," he said quietly. Cilia nodded. "I know. It's the right thing to do. Maybe the first right thing we've done in years." Trump gestured to the guards. "Time's up. Take her back." As Cilia was led out, she looked back one last time. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. Maduro didn't respond. He couldn't. Trump sat back down. "Ready now?" Maduro picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the signature line. "When you sign that," Trump said, "you become a witness for the United States government. You'll testify in courts. You'll help us take down every criminal organization you worked with. Every cartel member. Every corrupt official. Every money launderer. I know. And in exchange, you'll live. Not well, not free, but you'll live." Maduro's hand shook. The pen touched the paper. "Before I sign," he said, "I want to know one thing. Why you? Why are you the one interrogating me?" Trump leaned back. "You want the truth?" "Yes, because I asked to be here." Trump's expression was difficult to read. "I dealt with dictators my whole presidency. Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, Putin, Erdogan. I sat across from all of them." He paused. "And you know what I learned? They're all the same. They all think they're special. They all think they're fighting for something bigger than themselves. But in the end, they're all just scared men clinging to power." Trump looked directly at Maduro. "I wanted to see if you were any different. I wanted to see if there was anything real behind all that revolutionary rhetoric." "And?" Maduro asked. "What did you find, honestly?" Trump shrugged. "You're weaker than I expected. I thought you'd put up more of a fight. But you broke as soon as I showed you those photos. As soon as you saw that mother." The words stung because they were true. That's when everything changed. Maduro signed his name. The pen made a scratching sound against the paper that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet room. Trump took the document, examined the signature, and nodded. "It's done." He stood up, gathering his papers. "The prosecutors will want to talk to you tomorrow. Then the intelligence agencies. You'll be busy for the next few months. Maybe years." He walked toward the door, then stopped. "You know, Nicolás, there's something I've been wondering. When you were president, sitting in that palace, eating fancy meals while your people starved, did you ever feel guilty? Even a little bit?" Maduro's voice was barely audible. "Every day." "Then why didn't you stop?" "Because..." Maduro struggled to find the words. "Because once you start down that path, you can't turn back. Every crime justifies the next one. Every lie requires another lie to cover it. It becomes who you are." Trump nodded slowly. "Yeah, I can understand that." For a moment, something passed between them. Not friendship, not even understanding, but maybe recognition. Two men who'd held power and knew what it cost. Then the moment passed. "Guards will take you to your new cell," Trump said. "The one with the window. Consider it a parting gift." He opened the door. "Trump," Maduro called out. Trump turned back. What will happen to Venezuela now? Trump considered the question. That's not up to me anymore. But if I had to guess? They'll rebuild. They'll elect real leaders. They'll remember this period as the dark time before things got better. And they'll hate me forever. Yeah, Trump said bluntly. They will. You'll be the villain in every history book. The man who destroyed the revolution. The traitor who sold out to America. He paused. But you'll be alive. And sometimes, that's all you get. Trump walked out. The door closed behind him with a heavy metallic clang. Maduro sat alone in the interrogation room, staring at his signature on the document. The revolution was over. Chávez's legacy was ashes, and Nicolás Maduro had become exactly what he'd always claimed to fight against. A broken man in an American prison, waiting for a window. But here's what no one knew.